Yeah. Yeah.
So I know we're like speculating into the future and everything, but I assume you have an idea of
I
what you want
mean,
to do for all the waves. Like,
we gave, when we went in to Hasbro, we gave them a specific, very granular outline for the first 3 years. So in as much
wow,
that
three
tells me that,
years.
so, I have way up to wave 12 planned and done.
Dang.
Now, that said, sorry, wave 9. So it'll be
Dang.
333. So wave 9. I've got
Nine. Okay.
those first 9 waves are already done, planned. On our side, we're working on wave 3 right now. So wave 2's already been done. I mean, worked on. We're now at sort of more of the output paint level thing. Like, it's going to take a little while, but yeah, we gave a very, very detailed plan that was 3 years in the works. Then on side of that, like, here's all the other shit we want to get to in years after this. So ideally, if this runs the way we hope, where something like Masters went for 10 years, there's no reason to think G.I. Joe couldn't go on as long as people are interested. There are
Wow.
enough characters, there's enough unique places that we could be doing this for, as long as people are willing to be interested in what those characters are.
So how long do I have to wait for a Boy George Snake Eyes?
Oh, come on. No. And that's one of the things that we get asked about. You'd be surprised how many people asked about that.
I know. That's not shocking at
well,
all.
because you gotta get Snake Eyes, and you gotta get Shipwreck.
Yeah.
You can't have just one. No,
That sounds like a good exclusive idea. That's all I'm saying.
see, that's the kind of thing that is a perfect exclusive, and I'm not saying that it might not happen one day.
All right. Hey, okay.
We next year we've got a curveball for 2022 that's gonna melt people's brains. It's gonna be rad.
It's gonna be
rad curveball for next year that no one's gonna see coming.
Like a big old giant hiss tank.
I can't tell you what that curveball
like a USS Flag that's bigger than my car.
It would have to be. No, there's definitely some unexpected stuff that we're getting into that I think people are going to be very excited about. Because I know how excited I am by it, and I know excited the team that's working on it is. Because we're working on some packaging for some next year stuff right now, and they're just like, I can't believe we're doing this. I'm
That's
like,
great.
Oh yeah, we're doing this.
That's great to hear. Very cool. Very cool. All right, so let's dip into reaction a little bit.
All right,
that was the other big reveal, and of course, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, is primarily well known as a 3 3/4 inch action figure line. However,
I think G.I. Joe was a 3 3/4 inch action line that then spawned a cartoon.
There you go. You are correct. So,
yes.
O-rings. That's obviously the big draw of G.I. Joe, and I assume that's something that you probably couldn't do with your G.I. Joe line.
I mean, when we went and we're talking with Hasbro, one of the first things we talked about was O-ring. That said, what they came back to us was like, we can make O-ring. We don't necessarily need you guys for O-ring. Like, we know how to make O-ring. Like, that's what we do. And what's interesting to us is your alternative history to what's going on. Reaction is something that you guys have really dialed in and really know. And it's like, if you guys want to go down that route, we're willing to let you say, this is what G.I. Joe could have looked like if it had come out as a reaction figure. And so that's where we went. Like I said, I think, it's definitely one of those things where, as we were starting on this, I felt like that we were probably going to get a lot of blowback around the fact that we weren't making O-ring figures for G.I. Joe, because I know that there's a demand for it. But at the same time, it's not to say that I don't love 5 POA figures. Clearly, we've made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. And I was like, okay, yes, I have complete thoughts about what I would do in an O-ring situation, but I also have a complete point of view about what I would do had I almost look at this as an alternate reality where these came out as 5 POA figures, as reaction figures. And that's what they said that that's what we could do. So I ran with it. I'm not, not going to be like, can't do it. It's not O-ring. Like, no way. I personally, love 5 POA figures. And as a kid, one of the things that did annoy me about GI Joes is because the O-rings got really loose and wobbly and I snapped them. And the O-ring articulation in GI Joe is a complete downstream from the 12-inch multi-articulated GI Joe mixed with what they were doing with Micronauts, which had the O-ring thing. And they sort of meshed that into a new thing, especially once you get into, how they did the 90-degree elbow bends with the 50-50 joint and everything. Like the swivel on it is definitely a takedown from sort of like their idea of like how you would do a Kung Fu grip, but for 3 3/4. So that was how they got to what O-ring was. And as a kid, I can say that I preferred my Star Wars articulation over my GI Joe articulation. I can say that knowing though that for a lot of people, the big draw for GI Joe was the articulation.
I was about to say it's interesting to hear because that is opposite of what I've always heard. Like I remember even lots of kids when I was younger, like, oh, look how like my GI Joes move. I wish my wrestling figures moved the way my GI Joe figures do. They can actually do moves to each other, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's completely true. And it's completely true. I think the thing is, like, I come back to it is like, that said, I'm not trying to convince you if you like O-rings better that you should like my figures. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm not this is not necessarily for everyone. This is not a product that's meant to be the end all be all for everyone and every collector. This is meant for somebody like me or somebody that's interested in a new line of GI Joe to collect, possibly. And so I think where we went with it is very different because, for me, like Scarlett always drove me crazy as a toy because the stars weren't correct on her gloves, that sort of stuff. It's like, so I'm making my version of what GI Joe would and could have been for somebody that's coming from a similar point of view to me, knowing that it's not for every GI Joe collector.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? All these different types of toys out there, different types of GI Joe figures. So I think that's cool. And I love seeing what you're doing with them too. I mean, the packaging is an obvious homage to the old stuff. And I think that's beautiful. Like I love
one of the most iconic toy packages ever.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
We actually had, I shit you not, we had a long sit down, drag out meeting of like, should we use the explosion or not? Because does it imply to some people that it has an O-ring? Do they just associate it too tightly to that? And in the end, it was just like, but it's GI Joe. Like, that explosion is just so much part of the DNA of GI Joe. To go without it feels wrong. It just doesn't feel like what this is and what this should be. So yeah, clearly we are homaging to that GI Joe burst packaging very clearly.
It's very cool.
Trying to do our twist on it.
And you mentioned we talked briefly about army builders earlier, and you are going like all out with your army builders with the reaction line, which is very fun.
Yeah, and obviously that's the same thing as understanding. So I mean, of course I have them all right here off camera, just conveniently.
Oh, no, it's like
So the waves are set up. I have to do it this way. So the waves are set up to where we have 4 figures from each side in each wave. So you've got 4 Joe figures and 4 Cobra figures. Of that, 3 of the figures are main figures. Here we got Cobra, Baroness, and Destro. There we go. Looking good, guys. And then we have one, if you will, army builder. So that said, I'm not trying to force you to buy more than one of these. Like, I'm trying to make it so that you get, if you just need a green shirt, you can just get a green shirt. But if you are building an army, there's some variety within these figures. And so if you were actually making an army, they wouldn't all be pink dudes, you know? So we've got pink dudes, we've got light brown dudes, and we've got dark brown dudes. So you can have some variety in there. And then obviously we're also trying to look at like what hasn't really been done. Like Quinn was made later. Green shirt, you could argue, was made at the anniversary, but like there really wasn't a vintage green shirt. And then when you talk about the Cobra Trooper, these are a little, I've got them rearranged, as you can tell by the color of the bubbles. In the animation, sometimes the guys have H-back straps on their back and sometimes they have Y-backs.
Yeah.
And so we were like, let's make them both. Now, I'm not telling you that you need to buy 6 Cobra soldiers to have them all. But if you're that guy that's army building, you can get variety. I think for anybody else, one, and you've checked it off the list, you're good. But if you are that guy that wants to build an army, there's variety built in here so that you can have some differences in that army. So it looks thing. And then technically speaking, I have to look sideways here. So everybody knows the H backs come with the yellow backing, the Y backs come with the red backing. So if you're looking for a specific one, that's how you know.
That's cool. That's really neat that you did that. And the reactions are treated differently than the Ultimates. It's not like an open pre-order thing. Like these actually go up for sale. You put them in your stores.
Yeah, exactly. So these will come out in September. They'll be ready. They'll be available. You'll be able to buy them. And that brings up sort of the same issue that we run into with the pre-orders and the Ultimates, which is I had to make a guess as to how many we were going to sell.
Oh, okay.
I had to make an educated guess on how many to make. So if for some reason I have underestimated or under-guessed or whatever else you want to call it, or screwed up on how many to make, and these things sell out, I will go make more. My job is to not make this hard. It may take, 4 months to get them back in stock, because if I go place an order with the factory now for a reorder, it's 60 days to make it and another 60 days on the water. So it'll take 4 months to get here, minimum, just to make a reorder. But if we have radically underestimated what we think people want for these, we will make more. We will go back and make it. The point is to have fun with it and collect it, not to make it difficult. So if for some reason we have underestimated, who knows, I'm harping on this now and I shouldn't be, is then I'll go back and make it so that you can get them. So don't sweat if like, oh my God, they're immediately sold out. What are we going to do? It's like, we got your back. Trust me, we know as well as you do that then we need to go make more.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, man, you've really dropped a lot of info on your new G.I. Joe line today. But it looks like you guys are doing some really fun stuff and you've got a lot of things on the horizon. It sounds like you've got some fun things planned. I'm excited to see this thing that's going to blow all our minds next year.
It is, because it's the same thing. It's no different than this, where it's like, I can't believe they're letting us play us in this sandbox. Then it's like, I can't believe they're letting us go there with it.
Oh, that is cool. That is really, really exciting.
And back to your cold slither snake eyes,
Oh,
not
yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
He's not next year.
Okay.
That's not to say we won't get there.
Sweet. I'm excited. I think you've pretty much covered all the questions I had and then some, but was there anything else that you feel like we should bring up or say to end this off today?
I don't know that there's necessarily something I feel like I need. I feel like I've been talking too much about it, but people are interested to hear what our point of view is. It's in a lot of ways somebody that's probably aware that we exist, but has never bought anything from us.
Of course. Yeah. Well,
Uh,
like I said, every time you introduce one of these new brands, you're definitely hitting a new audience that's never really bought anything from you before. And that's why I'm always a little worried that we're just repeating information, but you always bring something new to the table. I feel like every time we have these discussions. So
you mean I
I think
get
it's awesome.
sidetracked onto how to make
I mean,
factories or
there's
something?
definitely some sidetracking going on, but that's okay. That's what
Yeah,
it keeps it
anybody that's
interesting.
now watched more than one interview is like, God, that guy can't even stay on topic. It's horrible. Um, no, I mean, I have been very, very surprised and humbled's not the right word, but just appreciative that of the response. I thought that we were going to run into a lot more just general negativity around the fact that we weren't making O-rings, or
Sure.
general negativity around why we choose single jointed knees and elbows versus double jointed knees and elbows, stuff like that. And in general, it's really been much more of people going, hey, maybe I don't like this. Like, I'm not buying it because it doesn't have this, or I'm not buying it because it's not O-ring, but I understand why other people might like this. And that's been really refreshing because generally speaking, I think there's a certain bar that happens that no matter what toy anybody puts out, that there's 20% or however many people that jump in that just hate everything. And uh, and you know, the GI Joe fan base, not unlike any other fan base, is very passionate. And I guess I was bracing for more blowback on the fact that we wouldn't be able to use O-rings than we
Sure.
got.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting because that means either people understand the passion that we put into making what we're doing and appreciate it, whether they're going to buy it or not, or they simply like it as well and find it to be a new take on their GI Joe.
I think that's a good
So
way to look at it. And also the fact, like we talked about earlier, like G.I. Joe is one of those brands that, fans have been hungry for so long, and there's not really been a lot to buy for it. And now there are multiple options out there. And I think that's good. I think it's good that there's lots of different things to choose from.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And you know, we're just going to try to have a whole lot of fun with it and make characters that haven't really either been made at all, or only been made once or twice before, maybe not in the way we would have done it, uh, go into parts of the canon of GI Joe that really haven't been touched, surprisingly. So to me, there's an incredible amount of stuff to go down and do that's really exciting, because generally with a franchise that's this big and this popular, that's been around for this long, you know, people have gone into every deep dark corner and found everything. And I think with GI Joe, there's still so much stuff that hasn't been touched.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, very cool. So the Super 7 Ultimates figures are available for pre-order now over at super7.com, and that pre-order is open until August 16th for the first wave. So if this is something you guys are interested in, make sure you get your order in. Looks like they are expected to deliver spring 2022 is what it says,
Yeah,
next year.
spring
So,
spring 2022.
yep.
We should be able to get them out before CNY, which means then I just gotta then it's the whims of the boats across the
Yeah,
ocean.
exactly. Awesome. Well, Brian, thank you so much for once again taking the time to sit down and chat with me about this stuff. I
I
really
feel like it's
appreciate it.
more the opposite of like, thanks, Dan, for wasting an hour and a half
Thanks.
of your
Thanks
day.
for
Uh,
listening to me
oh
talk
God,
and go on tangents. No, I
exactly.
told you, man, I really enjoy doing this, and I'm really grateful that you take the time to do this with me so often. So thank you.
It's just a love fest over here, isn't it?
I guess, well, we better cut it off because then that's all everybody's going to
Yeah,
complain about.
you got babies to take care of.
That's right. All right. Well, guys, thank you so very much for watching, and stay tuned. I'm sure we'll be doing this again sometime in the future. So until next time, my friends.